Hey friend, Graham here from recordingrevolution.com. Today I want to talk to you about recording your next EP. As someone who makes records still as a musician, as an artist, every year I try to put out a brand new EP. And so I go through the same thing you're going through. I'm writing songs, I'm trying to record songs, I'm trying to release them as an artist. And I get a lot of questions about what does my process look like. I try to update you every time I release an EP and sort of show you behind the scenes on how I did it or what was going on. And so, as someone who's been making music for 20 years as an artist in some way, shape, or form, I want to share what experience I've had and give you specifically 3 tips you can use when you are ready to write and record and release your next EP. Real quick, if you don't know what an EP is, literally it stands for extended play, which sounds ironic because typically an EP is a shorter album. It's generally 4 to 6 songs, where a full-length album these days are 10 to 12 or more songs. So when we think about EP, we think about a short album, but really EP stands for extended play. And this goes back to the days of vinyl where you had EPs for extended play, more than just one single. You had a single, then you had like 3 or 4 songs on an EP, then you had an LP, a long play. So just a little bit of history for you there. But when we say EP, we mean a short record. So we're talking about a release that has 4 to 6 songs and you treat it like a regular album. It's just shorter. And here's a little bonus tip for you. I'm a huge fan of EPs and I think you should consider them as well over full-length albums. Not that you shouldn't do full-length albums, but hear me out. If you're someone who says, "Man, I just don't have the time to release a full-length album," or "I've been working on this full-length album forever," those things will just hold you back from doing what will move your career forward, which is releasing stuff. If you want to build an audience, if you want traction, you have to release stuff. So I'm a big fan of shorter projects. So an EP every year versus a full-length album every 2 years, right? That used to be the pattern. Full-length album every 2 years from your favorite artist. Still, many of the big artists, it's every 2 to 3 to 4 years they release a big album. We don't have that luxury as smaller independent artists to disappear for 2 to 4 years and then come back with an epic album. I'd rather you be in their world every year with a new collection of songs, or you could just move to singles as well. You could do something every month, but that's a video for another day. So if you're buying into the concept that I'm suggesting, which is release a short album of 4 to 6 songs every single year, here are 3 tips to help you get it done and get it done well based off of what I've done over the many, many years of putting out an EP every year. Number 1 is schedule the darn thing. If you don't have a calendar, it ain't gonna get done. Look at your calendar, pick a date in the future, and say, this is the day I'm digitally releasing this EP, or physically releasing the CD if you still do that. Literally, I look out at least 90 days in the future. I've done this before, giving myself a 90-day window, and I think you could do it in 90 days if you really pushed yourself. But you have to pick your release day, circle it on the calendar, and then if you're really bold, tell your fans, tell your audience, new EP's coming out November 25th or whatever date you picked. Or you can give yourself a little bit of leeway and say, new EP comes out in November. Now you're stuck because you have to deliver. You've created that pressure. You've created a deadline and you've told your fans about it. So now you have to get to work. This is so important. Don't underestimate this because you and I are creatives. We're artists. And what do artists do? We procrastinate. We perfect. We just tinker too long. And because we care about our art and because we want to deliver a great product, we'll spend way too much time on it. So we need to have a fixed amount of time. And trust me, having a deadline is critical. And then what you do is you've got that deadline and then you work backwards. Okay, if I'm releasing it on November 25th, let's say, then I've got to have it mastered and have the artwork done and have all the liner notes done like the week before. So you move back, okay? So if I have to have it mastered by this date, then it needs to go into mastering on this date. If it needs to go into mastering on this date, then it needs to be mixed completely and all the revisions done by this date. And you kind of work backwards. And then it tells you when all the recordings have to be done. And then it tells you when all the songwriting has to be done. If you haven't written songs, it gives you a timetable working you all the way back to present day. If you don't get anything out of this video but this first step, you'll be in great shape. This is so important. And this is an area of development for many of you artists because a lot of you are young. But then even if you're not young, you're young or new in this space of being an artist. And even if you're not going to make your living from this, if you still want to put out a good product and respect yourself as an artist, you have to grow up a little bit. You have to mature a little bit and treat your time and your studio time like a professional would, with an actual calendar, with actual dates and deadlines like a real label would, where you have to deliver. And if there's no one keeping you accountable, then you, my friend, have to keep yourself accountable. And that takes discipline. But that's part of being a professional. That's part of being a true artist, is not just being creative and fun and free, but also keep that. That's good. But also being a professional, respecting your time, being able to forecast out in the future and guarantee your fans when your next album or EP is going to come out. So if that's tip number one, tip number two is this: have one cohesive sound. The thing that makes EPs or albums different than just a single is that it's a collection of songs, or they are a collection of songs, I should say. And on that collection, in my opinion, this is the way it's always been and still should be to some degree here, even if it's fewer songs, that collection should represent your development as an artist, your interests as an artist in a certain period of time. It's like a scrapbook or a yearbook. It documents what you're digging and what you're sounding like and what you're creating in this calendar year or over this period of 6 months. The good thing is that each subsequent EP can have a totally different sound as an artist. I think there's a lot of freedom and leeway for artists and bands to have different sounds. Think about Taylor Swift, country artist, country, country, country. And then she makes a record that's kind of pop country, and she's taking her listeners on a little bit of a journey and saying, look, I can do more than just country. Next record is completely pop, completely pop. She crossed over from traditional country to pop, and that's okay. That is okay. You should evolve as an artist or have the freedom to. You don't have to, because I have other artists that I know that I love that don't evolve. For instance, the band Cake. Anybody remember the song The Distance? Well, this band was one of my favorite bands in the 90s. They had a very unique sound, and every record sounded the same. Every record sounded the same. And I remember an interview with the lead singer of Cake, and they asked him about that. Why haven't you evolved as an artist? And he said, why should I? I like the sound that we had. It worked. Our fans love it. I'm just going to do more of that. And that is a perfectly valid choice. So you can stay the same or you can evolve, but all I'm saying is each EP should have a cohesive sound. Those 4 to 6 songs, that collection of songs, should have a similar vibe to them. I've done this in the past where I've had EPs that are very acoustic based. A lot of acoustic guitar, a lot of hand percussion, not a lot of overdriven guitars. Then I've had EPs that were all loop drum based and electronic synth based stuff, where I don't have really any acoustic guitars or really any live instruments to speak of, just a couple of things. Very different sound. I've brought in keyboard players and done very piano driven EPs. I've done EPs in the past where all the songs were in drop D, so they all had that sort of crunchy, low, distorted rock grunge sound. Doesn't really matter what it is, or even if you change it up on the next EP. The point is, if you're going to give someone an EP, give them a snapshot of what you're digging at the time and give them an experience for 20 minutes, 25, 30 minutes, however long that EP is. Give them an experience that's cohesive, that is a journey that makes sense together. So if you have your deadline, tip one, and your schedule and your calendar, and you know when you got to release this EP and what to do first, second, and third, then the next thing you have to ask yourself is, what is this cohesive sound going to be on this EP? And if you haven't done that, then ask it now. That'll help you in the songwriting phase. It'll help you if you've already written songs to weed out certain songs. What is the cohesive sound going to be for this EP? Even if you don't articulate it officially to your fans, as long as you know, as long as you're aware of what that sound is, I think you'll be in really, really good shape and you'll deliver a better product. Okay, and tip number 3 for you when you're creating your next EP is try something new. Try something new. This could be a variety of things. This could be a new instrument that you've never played before or never featured before. That could be the thing that you try that's new. This could be a new type of song in terms of songwriting. Instead of the typical verse, chorus, this is a different songwriting format, a different arrangement style that you've never done before. Maybe you always had bridges and guitar solos. What if you just got rid of all the bridges and guitar solos on this EP? A few years ago, I tried something new. I created the entire EP in a different DAW with loops only. No live drums. I didn't even write the songs on guitar first. I wrote them on drum loops first and then built the songs around that. Maybe it's a vocal effect that you're trying on almost all the songs in that EP that becomes sort of the signature sound for that EP. Whatever it is, try something new on your next EP and on every EP. This does 2 things. One, as my friend Dave Pensado says, it's better to sound new than to sound good. So try something new that you're not even hearing out there in the world, so that you're sort of catching the listener's attention and they go, ooh, that's different. Ooh, I like that. But also, number two, you're trying something new to push you along as an artist, to move you along as a performer. You should never just do the same thing, even if it's the same sound. Do something that challenges you every single EP because you will develop. It may not be your favorite EP. You may not end up doing that new thing on the next EP, but the fact that you did it, the fact that you tried it, will develop you and grow you as an artist. And three, there's something really cool about trying something new every EP that keeps you feeling fresh, keeps you personally excited because it's not the same old, same old, same old. And when you're personally excited, your creative juices flow. There's something called the creative switch. And I learned this from business guru Jay Abraham, but I applied it to music, which is you change your stimuli, you change the way you do things or what you're physically looking at or hearing, change your environment. Anytime you can do something like that physically, it wakes your brain up because your brain wants to go into autopilot mode. Your brain is an amazing organ that can be as efficient as it needs to be. In fact, it's built to be efficient. So if it can skip steps, if it can figure out your routine, it will shut down or it will go into sleep mode or into low power mode so it can get the job done without having to work too hard. That's the opposite of what we want if we want to be creative. To be creative, we want our brain on overload so that neurons are firing and our brain juices, whatever those are flowing. Is that a thing? I don't know. We want our brain to be operating at high capacity when we create music because that's where our creative energy comes from. So to do that, we got to wake up our brain, and we can do that by changing something up and trying something new so that our brain is like, oh, I'm not used to this. I'm not used to this instrument or this sound. And I promise you, you'll be more creative if you're on edge and if you're not in your sweet spot comfort zone. So that's it. Always have a schedule. Make your deadline the day you're going to release it ahead of time and work backwards. Have a cohesive sound for every song in your EP and try something new. Now, I want to help you out with your next EP even more. And I've got really, really cool news. My friend and multi-Grammy award-winning producer and mix engineer Jakir King has agreed to come on my channel and put on a one-time live workshop on November 5th to help you as an independent artist put together a killer sounding EP and how to do it all on a budget. Because let's face it, you and I are independent musicians. We don't have a label pumping cash into our next project. So we want to be able to create something that's competitive, but we want to do it on a budget. Now, if you don't know who Jakir King is, just Google his name. He's the producer and mixer behind Kings of Leon's biggest hits. He's the producer and engineer behind James Bay's platinum debut album. And he's produced for artists across a ton of genres, from Norah Jones and Chase Rice and Moon Taxi to Kaleo and Tom Waits. The dude's a total stud. He's a genius musician, engineer, producer, mixer. But beyond that, he's just an incredible guy, and he has a great, great sense of music. And I've had the privilege to literally work with him and learn from him in a live environment. I've since been able to stay in touch and connect and get to know him even more as a person. And he's one of the guys in the music industry that truly I respect his craft, and I respect his talent, and I respect him as a human being. And I was like, Jakir, you've got to teach my audience how you do what you do. And he totally agreed to do it. So on this live one-time only workshop, Jakir will be giving you a whole strategy that you can use to produce your next EP on a budget as an independent artist, including how to select the best songs to go on your EP and his best tips for producing, recording, and mixing on a budget. And since it's a live event, he'll be able to answer all your questions on music production or just making music in general. And since this is a live workshop, space is limited because of the software we use. So if you want to secure your spot, join the notification list to ensure that you'll hear about it the moment that you can get access to this amazing workshop. And even if you can't attend the actual day and time live, if you get your spot secure, you'll be able to get the recording of the entire workshop as well. Just go to recordingrevolution.com/JK. I'll put the link here below the video as well. That way you can get on the notification list and you'll be the first to know the moment spots become available, and you can secure your spot for this amazing EP production workshop with Grammy winner Jakir King. Now, I'm personally excited to just attend and listen to Jakir. It's not every day that independent artists like you and me get a chance to sit under the teaching of a Grammy-winning legend like Jakir King. And not only that, but to be able to ask him questions and further probe into his mind to understand the best way to make records that sound professional, that can compete with the biggest names out there, but do it as an independent artist and on a budget. So jump on the early notification list at recordingrevolution.com/JK, and you'll be one of the first to hear about when spots go available so you can join us on that live workshop on November 5th. Pumped to have you there. Thanks for watching and subscribing, and I'll see you in another video real soon.